Lord, if my brother sins against me, how often must I forgive him? Always. That's the answer that Jesus gives. He doesn't say 77 times, he says always. Mercy has no limits. Forgiveness has no limits. We need to ingrain that in our mind because it's very hard for us to fully comprehend what that always means, because it's not easy to forgive. Especially when someone does harm to us. Creates a scar in the soul. But we must always forgive. So how do we do that? The book of Sirach offers us a clue. Wrath and anger are hateful things, yet the sinner hugs them tight. The alternative to forgiveness is wrath and anger. That's the alternative to forgiveness. And I explain a little bit more. What happens is that when we do not forgive, we do what the book of Sirach tells us that we do. We hold to vengeance. The vengeful will suffer the Lord's vengeance, for he remembers the sins in detail. That's what happens to us when we don't forgive. We hold on to things. We hold on, the memory holds on to the debt. Whose fault is it? That's what happens. Who's at fault? You did something wrong to me. It was not my fault. I did something wrong to you. Even then, it was not my fault. We like to keep people accountable, especially when they do something wrong. So the proposal to Jesus in the gospel is, if my brother sins against me, how often must I forgive? If my brother sins, period, how often must I forgive? It's a continuation, continuously must be shown forgiveness. That's where the mercy of God has no limits. But how do we do it? Because our memory tells us otherwise. Our memory keeps reminding us the wrong that was done to us and that we got to do something back to them. Or teach a lesson. Or something like that. But actually, it requires for us to understand anger and how anger works in relation to forgiveness, so that we know how the balance is off in our perspective as Christians in the mercy of God. Forgive your neighbor's injustices when you pray, your own sins will be forgiven. And that kind of gives us an idea that we have to look at our own sinfulness, our own weaknesses, in order for us to undertake the trouble of looking at the faults of another. And we talked about that last week, how easy it is for us to just look at the sins of someone else. But very hard for us to look at our own sinfulness, our own weaknesses, and we get trapped in the memory of the wrong that was done to us. Remember the sins, and maybe we keep remembering them. The book of Sirach gives us an antidote against this kind of anger. Overlook faults. Overlook the fault, says. Think of the commandments. Hate not your neighbor. Remember the Most High's covenant and overlook faults. That's the clue for us. To overlook the faults of another. It doesn't say to forgive them, or to forget them, I'm sorry. Now, there's a common saying that says, forgive, but not forget. Doesn't work. We don't remember, or forgive and forget. We will remember. Let's not be naive. We will remember the faults of another. Our memory is there. And we wish we had a selective memory. That we can delete things as if in a hard drive. We wish, but no, it always stays there. Even in your hard drive, actually stays there. Our memories, especially with the hurt and the pain of others, stays there. So what do? We overlook them. That means we just skip them. It sounds easy, but at the same time, you know that it's difficult. It's not easy just to pretend that did not happen. Pretend that did not happen. Can we do that? No, we hold on to it. See what happened to the man in the gospel today. After his debt had been completely forgiven, a huge amount, the gospel says, that he owed. He just asked, have pity on me, and I'll pay you all back. And the man had pity, was moved with compassion and forgave him the debt. moved with compassion. When the servant had left, so quick, he forgot. He forgot that he just received mercy. When the servant had left, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him a much smaller amount. And look at the reaction. He seized him and has started to choke him. Anger. He lashed out. He showed his anger and lashed out against the other. He asked the question, be patient with me. And he just lashed out and he refused. He tells us a lot, my brothers and sisters, about forgiveness. And he also tells us a lot about anger and our lashing out. What areas in our life do we need to find mercy, and what areas in our life do we need to forgive? Look at your anger. I look at my anger. Let's look at our anger. Those moments in our life in which we lash out against someone else, that is a thermometer that there is lack of mercy in us. That we're not willing to forgive, especially when we lose our temper, as we say. Or we almost feel like losing it. That is a particular moment, specifically that every human being experiences. But it particularly tells us, there is something in that moment that tells us, I need to forgive right here and there. That is where the mercy of God is to be channeled, and that is where the mercy of God is to put up. So how do we find those moments in which we must practice forgiveness, if not when we are angry and when we are lashing out to someone else? In those moments, unless we are driven by zeal, but in those moments, that's when we are to exercise mercy and just overlook the aggression. Just pretend it did not happen. That's hard. That's hard, my brothers and sisters. Because you just need to pretend it didn't happen. And let it go. Hold it. And then ask for the Lord for mercy. A clue is also given to us. The Lord is slow to anger, says the responsorial psalm. So God sometimes He also gets angry. Can God get angry? Yes. We can get angry too if it is for the Lord. Can God get angry? Yes. Because He's God. He made us for Him. When we refuse His mercy, He can get angry with us. If we refuse His mercy. So for us, what do we look at? Our Father would say, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. He doesn't say, forgive us our trespasses, and if you can't, forgive those who sin against you. It kind of goes together. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those. There's the as we. In the same manner in which we apply mercy, mercy is applied to us. We cannot say that we receive the mercy of God and our sins are forgiven when we refuse to forgive the sins of others. That sums up the gospel today. When we hold grudges and anger against someone else continuously, that eats us alive, departs us from the Lord Himself, and doesn't allow the mercy of God to flow within us. So we have to actually look within and find ways in which we can apply mercy. We can forgive the faults and the sins of another. The best antidote to that, my brothers and sisters, is to look at our own sins. How often must I forgive? But look at my own sin. Look at my own weaknesses. Look at our own faults, our own flaws, constantly. Because in the faults that we accuse another, we have them ourselves. Not in kind perhaps, but in form. The same flaws, the same mistakes that we claim other one has, we carry them ourselves. We have the same sin. Or even worse. The more that we get in our high horse and we just try to tell others, you are a sinner, the more we're lacking forgiveness. What happens to us when we look at our own sinfulness constantly is that it makes us more compassionate against the sins of others. We understand how sin works, and it's easier for us to forgive. You know, it's easier for us to forgive when we understand the sins of another. But in order to do that, we have to empathize with those who sin. None of us are saints. We all have our flaws. Why do we recommend an examination of conscience frequently, even if daily? If we're going to bed at night, do examination of conscience and looking at our own sins. And ask the Lord this question in your prayer. Something very simple was, Lord, show me my wounds. See, we're blinded to our own wounds, and we look at the wounds of the others. But we're blinded to our own wounds. So that's a grace when we ask the Lord for that simple gift. Lord, show me my wounds. And that I may not see someone else's but mine. That I may not see the fault of another, that I may overlook the sins of others as if they did not happen. And just focus on my own sins, my own weaknesses, on my own path to holiness in you. We ask for the Mother of God to intercede for us, that she may help us also in that process of healing in our soul. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.